the knock on Sivo in recent times has been that he's not rolling up the sleeves and doing enough work coming out of his own end. So last night, 9 runs for 88 metres.
Yeah.
The big one that I keep seeing now is Sivo, 8 post-contact metres. He's just sort of hitting and going to ground, whereas he used to bust tackles, he used to drag defenders with him. It has to be a confidence thing, right? Because he hasn't changed physically at all.
Well, yeah, that's a key. And you looked at, even last night, Jason Saab busted the line, made a break. You watch Penrith and To'o's always leading the way with the carry meters. The Roosters have these big bodies in Tupou and Sawali that just march on the field. Those back 5 running meters make your job so much easier for your forward. So it's not just about, like, it's really easy. And I know last night on Fox they were attacking a lot of the forward packs of Parramatta, but when you don't have, Sivo or the other winger carrying down the field and getting you out of trouble, it's a lot of pressure for you big boys to turn around, get behind the ball and try to march out there.
So a lot said about Brad Arthur over the past fortnight. This doesn't really help him, but where to for Parramatta? We saw an article during the week, some people saying he's lost the players. Well, Regan Campbell-Gillard came out and said he'd die for Brad Arthur.
Gibbo, would you die for your coach?
Absolutely not. I would not die for my coach. I feel like, I don't know, you do sort of say these things, and I feel like usually it used to be like the old full support of the board.
Yeah, well...
What, you die for... That's the first time I've heard I'd die for my coach.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll give you a bit of background because I probably know this stuff a bit more intimately than other people. So I was part of the Eels leadership group for many years. I think I was Brad's captain for 6 or 7 of the years that he was there. And what he's really good at is he'll keep the key guys very tight. So you got your captain, your leadership group, but those key guys that are the decision makers of that team, he knows how to take care of them really well. So they probably get a lot more leniency, and I was one of them. You get away with a bit more. You don't have to train as hard as others. Probably don't get sprayed as much as other players. But whenever he was under pressure, you better believe we always went to bat for him and said, So when the board come in and they're asking the key players, what's the coach like? We're always going to defend the coach because we've got his support. So that's where, I can understand Regan's mentality of saying those strong words. But if you ask, anyone outside the top 6 or 7 players, ask players 8 to 30, I think their mentality is a lot different to key guys. So and I don't know. I don't think it's just Brad Arthur. I think a lot of coaches are really good at keeping the key guys that can, get them to lose their job. And I've seen coaches lose their job because of a leadership group. You just see a lot with coaches that keep those guys tight and they'll back them.
Interesting. So people keep saying with Parramatta, the big names aren't standing up. The leadership group maybe isn't doing their job. But I don't know. I'm watching the games. It feels like Gutho's having a crack. It feels like RCG's having a crack. Looks like Paulo's having a crack. Who is it that people keep talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's the key players.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any of the players. I think it's just they're just in a rut and they don't know how to get out of it. Like I feel like I think that squad is a very strong playing squad. I think they can shake the competition. They can even potentially win a comp. But at the moment they're in a rut and you don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
I feel like it's a Mitch Moses rut because they look fine at the start of the year with Mitch.
I don't think one player changed. I agree. I think Mitch makes a big difference. I think that they beat the Tigers if he was in the team. I think that there's a couple, but they don't beat Titans. They don't beat Canberra. Like there's those games where they got flogged. One player's not going to completely change that result. Yeah.
Let's have a listen to what Brad Arthur had to say and Gutho about Sivo's sin bin.
It's 2018. We're in front 4 tries to 3, I think. 10 or 11 minutes to go. So tackle 4, they put a kick up, and hopefully we get the ball back.
No, just stupid. We're right in the game. It's 10 minutes left. We just got Will back on. Last tackle, we catch the ball, we give ourselves a chance. Just silly things at the moment that are really hurting us. Just missed tackles, penalties against us. Can't do that in NRL games. It doesn't matter who you're versing. Can't do that in NRL games.
It's a good point he made there, actually, about the 4 tries to 3. So they were down 20-18, but they'd scored 4 tries to Manly's 3. They're missing the goal kicking of Moses as well.
Yeah, that's true. That hurts a lot because going up by 6s makes a big difference. I'm being wary. I don't want to be too critical of Brad, but I just don't like, shifting the blame to Sivo. Like, imagine Sivo going home. He's already got enough head noise as it is, and then knowing that they got thrown under the bus last week. The players, which they deservedly needed that as well. But I just think there's a lot of finger pointing at the moment, and not a lot of accountability.
So where to for Parramatta from here? Young Ethan Sanders was
I was about
a
to say,
bright
I was
point.
about to say, let's talk about the positives.
Yeah.
I thought Ethan was amazing.
Yeah.
Defensively, he got tested a lot with Olakawada at the end. But that first half, he set up some tries, and he just looks like a star. I've watched him play a lot since he was a kid. So, he won the SG Ball comp for Parramatta last year. Then he gets picked for the 19s Origin team. Has a blinder in that game as well. And I don't know too much pressure on the kid, and I know he's off to Raiders next year, but I genuinely think he'll play State of Origin for a big chunk of his career. Yeah.
You know how they have these cooling off periods?
Yeah.
Is there any chance Parramatta can
Oh,
turn this around
I
somehow?
don't think they did any favours by not playing him the last month. Like, they had opportunity to kind of woo him over and get him not to sign at Canberra. I think that the last month was their chance to do that. I think they missed the boat, and now it's just anything they do now. It's just this. I think they picked him this week because they were desperate. Not because they were trying to keep him at the club.
Yeah.
They just need to win games.
Yeah. What about on debut having Olakawatu line up across from you? That's pretty intimidating. But he didn't miss a beat.
No, like I said, at the end, I think there was a couple of times he got exposed.
Yeah.
But
Very late. Yeah.
And that was with 12 men. And so
Yeah.
it's hard enough defending with 13 men. When you've got a man down and you're trying to defend that space on a big man, it's hard.
Hey, Timmy, can I ask you, do you buy into all this chat around you need to have a really strong backup half in New South Wales Cup? Like, you see clubs like Panthers who've had O'Sullivan, they have Schneider now. Like, there are strong players in Parramatta, in the New South Wales Cup. Parramatta don't have that. Do you think they're getting exposed?
Yeah, well, we've spent a lot of money on our halves, so it does, limit to the amount of ability you have to spend on other players. But I think you don't need a superstar halfback. You look at Schneider, you look at these guys. They're not high paid players. They're just players that can slot into a role. I don't know why there's no one at Parramatta that does that. I think Ethan, to be honest, he's better than Schneider.
Yeah.
So they've got the player there.
Yeah.
I was confused the last 3 or 4 weeks of why he wasn't getting a start because they were desperate. They needed to win. And they tried Blaze, got rid of him. They tried Arcia, got rid of him. Like, I think everyone knew the obvious answer was get Ethan in there and just give him runs on the belt. And maybe he would have not gone to Canberra. Maybe he would have gone, okay, this club wants me, and I would have stayed.
Was the reason they weren't putting him in because he was going to Canberra?
Well, he was commuting last year, and then they changed the rules that you weren't allowed to go. So he had to wait till round 6 or 7 this year before he can make a call. I think they knew he was going to go, so it was kind of like, well, don't bother.
He played 6 last night. Is he a 7 naturally? He's a 7.
Yeah.
So the Raiders must be cheering. They've got a 6 and a 7 now.
Yeah, how good.
Strange and Sanders.
Exactly. I was watching Strange carve up Parra the other day. I'm like, I can't believe they got him, and now they're going to get Sanders. But
and then they've got young Chevy Stewart at fullback.
Yeah,
they're a 9 away from a generational squad almost.
And you talk about backflipping. I think Ricky's the one that, if anyone's going to backflip, Ricky's going to make sure that he keeps. Like, Ricky's very influential, and he'll make sure he gets the player. But yeah, he's going to have a great. And I watched him last night, and he's a kid, and he's barking orders. He's what you want your 7 to do. And that was his first game. So you can only imagine what he's going to be like as he gets more runs under his belt.
All right, we better get to a break. After the break, we'll go through the positives, Manly, and how well Manly did. During the show, 1300 01 1170 if you'd like to call up and have a chat to us. We'd love to hear from some Eels fans to start off the show. We've got Timmy Mannah on the show here today. So if Eels fans, if you want to have a chat to Timmy, ask some questions about the squad, about Brad Arthur, about the future, 1300 01 1170 is the way you do that. We've both worked with Siebes here at SEN.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for Siebes that Manly are pulling it together because he copped such a bad rap for that time at Brisbane.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of agendas going on and stuff there, but he's a lovely guy, Siebes, isn't he?
Yeah, I enjoyed commentating with him because he always looked at the game so differently to every other commentator we have. He breaks it down. It's interesting hearing his brain kind of learning how he sees the game. So I enjoyed commentating. I learned a lot with him. And yeah, definitely happy for him. He mentioned in the presser, which I heard going into the game, it was their 3rd home game of the year and their 3rd sellout, which is a great sign. Like, when Manly are on and you got the crowds involved, that's a sign that rugby league's going well. And really happy for him and happy for the club because they look like they're enjoying themselves. Like watching them last night, I thought the first half they weren't great. I think that Parra aimed up, but once they got in their groove in that second half, they just, you see the smiles on Cherry's face and Tomlin's face, and they're just having fun.
The club's flying. Bright points for Manly. Jason Saab returning has made a huge difference for them. Some of his carries out of his own end, but also just having that finisher on the end of your back line who basically, if he gets the ball in space, it's a try, whether it's to him or a support player.
Well, the whole game's gone that way with speed. I feel like the game's changed a lot in the last 12 months, and now it's not so much about the big, strong body. You talked about Micah before, but the game's starting. Like I watched when Parra lost to Canberra a few weeks ago. It was the first time I realised how much speed's affecting the game now. You see all these nippy,
Like a Xavier Savage.
when he cut back in. Their other winger, Strange in the halves, like all that nippy speed with all those 6 agains, it's making it really hard for big bodies to like defend in the middle of the field.
Yep.
And you're seeing that exposed.
All right, it is the Front Rowers Club this morning, and we do have the Brown source, Nathan Brown, coming on later. I'm of the opinion that their bench front rowers actually are better and have a bigger impact on the game than their starting front rowers, and that's Matt Lodge and Nathan Brown. That was pretty much the turning point. When Brown source starts coming off the back fence, they just perk up as a team and get momentum.
You know what they remind me of? Remember the Bash Brothers in Mighty Ducks?
Yeah.
They come off the bench and the Bash Brothers just come in and they just, they're both doing it. They're both like shooting out of line defense.
Yep.
And it rattles the opposition. Like, when you start running the ball, you start second guessing your run because you're looking like, where are they? They're going to come and shoot it as soon as you catch it. And then, off the kickoffs, Brownie off the back fence just launches himself. And he earned a penalty, but he's done that a couple of times now where he runs so hard. There's not much of him. Like he's on a huge body, but because he just runs with so much conviction, it forces players to have to like recover and stay on him for too long before it gets a penalty.
We're going to find out later in the show about, because I'm so intrigued, the resurgence of Nathan Brown. Even last night, he started ball playing again. Well, that's another string to his bow.
He's always had that, but because he's gone back, he needs to keep running hard, because when he runs hard, everything comes off the back of that. He's always had the ball playing. I think towards the end of his time at Parramatta, they probably encouraged it too much, so he became the ball player rather than the Brown source everyone knows that just runs hard. Once he goes back to running hard, all of a sudden the defense is second-guessing themselves. They're preparing themselves to make a tackle because he's going to launch into him. And then when he brings the pass in that he always has, then it's a lot more powerful because he's thinking run first, pass second.
One thing for Manly, I'd like to get your opinion on this. They're still a bit leaky on the edges in defence. So Parramatta did score 4 tries again last night. Didn't look as bad because they didn't convert the goals. Is Ruben Garrick a centre? Because now teams are targeting that channel between Ruben Garrick and Daly Cherry Evans, and they're getting a lot of success there. We saw Sivo get 3 tries off the back of it last night.
So what do you think? Is he a fullback?
I think he's an awesome winger.
Winger.
I actually thought when they moved him from wing to centre, they lost something in both positions. They lost the great winger, because he's a great yardage winger, and now Tommy Talau on the wing, I don't think that's a like for like.
Yeah.
And I think they lost something in defence at centre. And they've got Brad Parker there that can plug a hole.
Yeah.
Is he as explosive as Garrick in attack? No. Garrick's still great in attack as a centre, but, geez, they leak some points down that side in defence.
Yeah, I think Parker used to be really effective. Like, he was never a superstar, but as a centre, he always did his job.
Yeah.
Is he a centre? I think he's a centre. But, yeah, I agree. I think he's probably a better winger. It's kind of like that whole Zach Lomax conversation again.
Yeah. Yeah, true. But I just think wingers have more effect on a game now than a centre.
Unfortunately, I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, we'll do our Winghouse Winger appreciation later in the show. All right, you're on the Mowers Club with Tim Mannah and James Magnuson. Stay tuned. Plenty more to come, including Joe Stimson and Nathan Brown.